A.W. Tozier, how many ever heard of him? He's a cool dude, and he teaches a lot on prayer, wrote a lot on prayer, preached a lot on prayer. And he said this quote, he said, it's absolutely silly to try to teach on prayer. He said, it's like teaching somebody to fall in love. I was like, oh, that's good stuff. And I was like, well, what do I teach on prayer? But it really is. It's like we can get these ideas, we can get these concepts, we can do tips, we can do techniques. But it's something that you never really can grasp until you do it. Prayer is one of those things that I'm never going to teach you enough until you just decide I'm going to pray. Until you just decide I'm going to do it. And as you push into that, you're going to just fall in love. You're going to fall in love with prayer. You're going to fall in love with what it looks like. Tonight, I want to just be super simple. I didn't give you my scriptures because I don't have many. I can only find like one in the whole Bible. Let's do Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6. So, we like to pray here at Cross Life Church. If you are free, or you can turn on your computer on Wednesdays at noon, there's some awesome worship and prayer happening in this house, and it's live streamed, so you can crank it up on Facebook. You don't have to watch it, because ain't none of us that pretty up on stage, okay? So, but you definitely want to turn the sound up and just kind of enter in and join into that. And even if you're like doing other things, but just have that in the background. It's really phenomenal. You can also go back and watch it anytime. It's always on Facebook, so you can go back and check that out. But we're trying to pray more. We're trying to pray better. We're trying to learn how to pray. And God spoke to me the other day, and he said this. He said, the trap we can sometimes get caught into in this newfound desire to pray is that we just add prayer to our activity. We add prayer to our activity. And he gave me the example of Aaron and Megan. Aaron and Megan are getting married here in less than a month. It's exciting. It's going to be awesome. And I was thinking about their marriage, and I don't know, like you guys, I'm just super excited for their marriage, and it's just kind of fun to watch, and they're an awesome couple, and we absolutely love them. And so I don't particularly like going to weddings, but this one is like a celebration. Like, this is going to be fun, right? This is going to be a good time. So I'm really excited about this one. And I was thinking about prayer in relation to their marriages. They're not just, and when they get married, they're not adding marriage to the other activities in their life. They're not just adding marriage into it. It's not going, well, we still have our jobs, we still do all these things, and we're just adding being married to it. They're still going to go to the same jobs, I'm assuming. They're still going to probably, shop at the same places. They're still going to church here, okay? A lot of the things about their life are going to change, but it's absolutely going to be completely different, because prayer everything's going to bend around their marriage. Everything they do, their jobs are going to bend around their marriage. Their shopping habits are going to bend around their marriage. Their recreation is going to bend around their marriage. Marriage is going to become the foundation. Marriage is going to become the thing that everything in their life forms around. And God spoke to me, it's the same way with prayer, is that if I add prayer to my activities, it doesn't work. But if I realize that when I move into being a place of prayer, when I move into choosing a lifestyle of prayer, I'm not talking just a prayer time, a lifestyle of prayer, everything else has to bend around that. Everything else forms around that idea. Okay? So, here's the issue, is if we simply add prayer to our activity, is we're praying out of noise. What do you mean by that, Pastor Matt? Wearing glasses in these light is really hard because my glasses are dirty, and every spot, like I feel like it's just foggy. But if I take them off, it's not going to be good. I won't be able to see anything. You guys would leave, and I wouldn't know it. It'd be very sad. Take them off. When we add prayer to the activity of our life, we get in this place where we're praying from the noise. What do I mean by that? Is that it's kind of a fine line, and you're really going to have to go with me tonight, because anytime in prayer, I want to push you in prayer. I want to push me in prayer. I want to get uncomfortable in prayer. I want to challenge you in your prayer life to go to a deeper place. I want to challenge you to move farther in prayer. And so some things I'm going to say tonight are going to be a little like, well, you don't understand my situation, okay? I've spoken in the past. I think the last time I talked about prayer, I talked about like we're in different life situations. And if you're a mother with kids, it's probably different than a preacher that can come in here and pray all day, right? You've got to kind of form and be different. And so we kind of do what these kind of like We're going to pray when we have a chance. We're going to pray when it's our commute and the kids are sort of quiet, or we're going to pray, for the 15 minutes they're sleeping or whatever it is. And that's good. I'm not against that. And I'm not against the idea of spontaneity in our prayer. The whole Jesus take the wheel prayers. Those are good, okay? We love those different types of prayer. But God calls us to a level of prayer that's an intentional prayer. God calls us to a place that I can't pray in the midst of the noise. Can I pray in the middle of a crowded place? Yes. But there's always the midst of the noise. And I'm not just talking the outside noise, I'm talking the inner noise. I'm talking when your mind's going 100 miles a minute and you're trying to pray and you're trying to get it out there. Great, that's a good place to pray. But there's a place God calls us to that he's saying, I want you to pray from a place that's not of the noise. Let me show you what I mean. Matthew 6, let's go to my scripture here. Matthew 6. This is the Sermon on the Mount. Verse 6. Everybody knows this verse says, but you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you've shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Okay? There's an aspect of prayer that I don't think we can hit in the midst of the noise. There's a depth and a level of prayer that I don't think we can get just in the flyby prayers. There's something that God's calling us to say, I need you to get away. And you can make every excuse about not having time and doing all those things, and grace, okay? Don't get me. This is not a condemning thing. I understand crazy lives. But there's a place that we're really going to have a hard time going to, because he says when you pray, you need to go into this place. And so we can do all those other prayers. We can do the haphazard praying from the noise. But there's something that he calls us to into a deeper place. He calls us into the closet that we're not going to reach outside the closet. Does that make sense? I know this is kind of weird and kind of different. But if I want to experience another level with him, and that's kind of the thing, is if I want to know him more intimately, if I want to know him more closer and all those types of things, I've got to experience him in a different place than the places I'm used to, right? Let's give a kind of a crude, weird example. If you take Missy and Chester, they've been married how long? 18 years? 15, 18, right? Okay. They knew each other before then, but let's just take like they didn't. I've known them as long as they've been married, right? They've been my friends. I liked her better from the start than him. She's way cooler than he is. Still think that way, okay? But I can tell you that I don't know him as well as she knows him. Why? Because she has encountered him in different ways. Does that make sense? Amen. So he's my best friend. I'm around him way too many hours of the day. I know kind of how he thinks. It scares me. I laugh at some of his jokes. I mean, we're super good friends. There's nobody else I'd rather do ministry with. But I'm never going to be at the relationship level that these two are. And it's the same thing as I think sometimes we kind of get, this is going to go a little, I think sometimes we get in the friend zone with Jesus. Because the friend zone is about the public atmosphere. The friend zone is about we can hang out at the restaurant. The friend zone's about the noise. And me and you can get to know each other better. But if I want to move past the friend zone in my relationship with Jesus, I got to get in the closet. I love corporate prayer. I love it. I think it's awesome. But we're never going to really be good at corporate prayer until we get good at closet prayer. We can kind of hide in corporate prayer. We can have the noise of corporate prayer. I can hear your guys' prayers, and I can feel like I'm in it, and I'm a part of it, and you are. But the thing about the closet is there's not the other noise, so it's just about me and him. And it becomes really raw, and it becomes really honest, and it's really kind of just in a place that you can't fake it. I can fake it in the corporate prayer, but I can't fake it in the closet prayer. Does that make sense? Are you with me here? Okay. He says, and you, when you pray, go into your room and shut the door. The first thing I notice about this scripture is the intentionality of it. I'm going to tell you, I think this is one of the biggest secrets to really moving into new depths of prayer is the intentionality of it. Is that we're not just haphazardly approaching God, but there's a plan and a purpose. Okay? I'll talk to people and they say, like, how long should you pray? And if you're a new beginner and you're a new beginner, if you're a new Christian and I'm going to, hey, pray 5 minutes and then let it increase. That's great. But the concept is that it's the intentional act. It's the saying, God, I have an appointment with you. And there's something about if we're going to take this we're going to take this scripture on a very physical level, and we're going to take it on a spiritual level. On a very physical level, there's something about going into a place, okay? Let's take an example of this. How many of you got like a lazy boy or like a recliner at home, right? Okay? When you sit in that recliner, I don't have one, it's very sad. Doesn't fit our feng shui or whatever, I don't know. We don't have one. But when you sit in that thing, your body naturally relaxes. Right? It just like, and it's going to take a chariot of horses to get you out of that thing again, right? Like you're just like, whew. That's because your body knows this is the area that you can relax. Does that make sense? It's literally like a signal to your body that this is a place of relaxation. The same thing happens in a prayer closet. When you have a specific place that you go to pray, when you walk into that place, there's an aspect of you goes, this is the place that I meet with God. Here's why I've had people say to me, we got 24-hour prayer coming up this weekend, right? Next weekend, 2 weeks away, not this Friday, next Friday. People will say to me, like, what's the big deal about coming to the church and praying versus staying home and praying? Because when you walk into this room, it's a prayer closet. And there's something about coming in here. Now, I understand, it's just a room. I get that. I'm not putting some spirit. But there's something about a place where there's been the innumerable amount of prayers come up over the generations of this thing. That I'm coming in this place where there were prayers prayed from Second Baptist old women with crazy hair, right? I'm coming and I'm joining my prayers to their prayers. There's something about when you walk into this room that it's a place where worship comes up 24/7 from this house. There's a place where men and women of God have struggled and travailed for the things of God at these altars. And when you come into it, your response is that you come in and you're like, this is a place to meet God. Now, I'm not like one of those one of those like religious people that like, you can have fun in here. We can laugh, we can make jokes. It's not like I consider this room to be like the holy, like this is, don't wear a hat. No, it's none of that stuff. But there is a sense of coming into a place with an intentionality that you're coming in and you're going, I'm here with a purpose. Okay? I don't come in here to eat my lunch. I don't come and relax just to chill in here. I don't really come in here to do work. When I come in here, it's to respond to God. But the same thing happens. So you can have that. You need to have that in your home. You need to have that chair. You need to have that closet. You need to have that room. You need to have that under the tree, wherever it is. But the place you can go into, that when you move into it, all your body, all your mind suddenly goes, I'm here to meet with God. Okay? But I also look at this as not only just a physical thing, it's just a spiritual thing. Is when I come into prayer, wherever I'm praying at, I'm coming in with that mind that I'm stepping into my spiritual prayer closet. Does that make sense? I change how I am. Okay? Today we had noon prayer, and I'm usually in back. Everybody's like, we never see you pray because you're spiritual, but I'm usually in back working on the things. But I wanted to come out and pray, and they had an empty seat. And so I'm like, I'm just going to barge in on their prayer. So I set the levels, and I left. And I came out here and prayed. And when I stepped into that chair, when I stepped into that mindset, I wasn't thinking about the other things I had to get done that day. I wasn't thinking about church things. I wasn't thinking about sound. I was stepping in with the attention of meeting with God. And there's a shift in your mind. When you come into that, there's a shift that happens, okay? Does that make sense? You with me? Okay, second of all, he says, shut the door. Go into your closet and shut the door. The point of shutting the door is shutting out stuff. It's shutting out the distractions. Here's what I mean. When I say we were praying from the noise, when you're in your prayer closet, you're not praying from the noise anymore. You're praying from the silence. So we have solitude, which Jesus illustrated. He said he would wake early in the morning and he'd get away from people. But there's also an aspect of not just the solitude, there has to be an aspect of the silence. Now, does that mean that, when I pray in here, it's very rare that I pray without music on? Does that mean I shouldn't have music? Not particularly, no. But I don't have the noise. My phone goes on silent, right? My things kind of end, and I try to kind of get to a place that is silence. On a spiritual thing, I don't know about you, but when I come into prayer a lot of times, it's like, I'll pace back and forth. I'll be seeking the face of God, but I'm thinking a million things that have nothing to do with God. And I literally kind of in my mind, this is just an exercise as I do, is I imagine myself shutting the door of my mind. Does that make sense? And shutting the door and saying, God, I submit these distractions to you and I shut them out. And I choose to shut myself into this place with you. You're like, this is weird, Pastor Matt. This is odd. But there has to be that intentionality to say, I'm going to make the time and set the atmosphere with God. The other day, I came in and I prayed, spend my time with God, and I came in and I'm praying and I'm doing my thing. And then I look up at the clock and I'm like, oh, I got to go do something. And I walked away and I just remember just this feeling of being like, you didn't do anything. Like, really? I literally just spent that whatever amount of time just walking and talking to myself. Really, I mean, it was just because my mind was everywhere else. I was thinking about everything else. And if somebody asked me how long I should pray, I'm going to say, pray till you've prayed. It's very, 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 very rare that me personally, your super spiritual may not be your issue, but that I walk into prayer and I'm like right in it right then. Some people are that way, and man, that's awesome. I'm not one of them. It's a fight to get myself lined up into a place where I'm actually touching heaven, where I'm actually praying, where I actually move from talking to myself to encountering God. And there's something about that is when we move into that place of encountering God, like everything changes in that space. Now, I'm not saying it's, Ray Lynn and I were talking about this day. Definitely not saying it's like, that's when you start slobbering and crying. That's when the emotion, it may not be that. But there's a difference between walking, pacing, and talking to yourself and meeting God. And some of the things you might notice about it is suddenly you lose track of time. You really do. Like, you'll look up and you're like, okay? And it may not be like it just went, but when I'm walking and pacing and talking to myself, that clock slows down. Sometimes goes backwards. When I'm connected with God, it's like time flies. Here's the big thing, and here's what you have to understand about the prayer closet thing. The biggest hindrance to you moving from talking to yourself to ministering to God is getting you out of the way. See, prayer is an expression of my heart to God. It's adoration. It's moving into this realm of like faith. It's moving into this place of where like I'm having a conversation with God. But for me to truly worship him like that, I have to move me out of the way. Have you ever noticed that? It's the same thing when we're doing worship service as it is in prayer. Have you ever noticed those times that like you're worshiping, but you're really aware of what's going on. You're really aware. You're like, oh, Pastor Chester, quit telling me to raise my hands, right? Okay? You're like, this song's not my favorite. What's the words? Why can't that guitar player hit a right note? You're thinking about everything, right? You're thinking, I'm talking about you, Alexis, that's you, okay? You're thinking about absolutely everything. I'm just kidding. You're thinking about absolutely everything. But when you hit that moment, you absolutely forget anything else is happening around you. When you really connect with God in worship, you forget that your hands are up. You forget that you're in that place of worship. You've connected with God. You forget about you. And that's the struggle in prayer, is getting to the place where it's not about me. It's not about my day. It's not about my to-do list. It's not about my needs. It's not, and you can deal with all those, but it's just about like, hey, I'm encountering God. I think of it in this way. If you were going to meet a king of something, when they call you to come to that place, you're not coming with your agenda. You're coming going, what do you need? Now, we have such an amazing God that when we get into that spot, he goes, what can I do for you? He really does. Because he wants to bless us. And he goes, hey, what's going on? But you have to step out. You have to get yourself out of the way to really move into a deeper place of prayer. You with me? I'm almost done. Promise. Okay. But when you pray, go into your room, and when you've shut the door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Come into your prayer closet with identity. What do I mean? I think one of the biggest struggles we have a lot of times in our prayer is that we come in and we're like, I'm not worthy to be here. And I messed up yesterday, and I screwed up. If we walk into it, if I'm praying to my Father, that makes me right? So I come into it with an identity. That's not a cockiness, but I come into it with an identity. It sets all that other stuff aside. What does he say? He says, when you pray, when he's doing the prophetic prayer, he says, our Father who is in heaven. Your very first thing is to line out the relationship. God, I walk into this thing and I'm not thinking about my unworthiness. I'm not thinking about my I did this or I did that. I'm coming in as your son. I'm coming in humbly, but I'm coming in a position. You're not a beggar off the street. You're not a stranger to him. And we spend so much time like with when that relationship, especially when you're kind of new to praying, is it does feel a little bit like strangers. But there comes a point in time where you're going to walk in and it just feels like home. When you're moving to that prayer place and you've suddenly stepped into that identity that he is my Father, I'm his son, I'm his daughter, and I pray from that identity. Does that make sense? So you come in with that identity, but then he also says, you pray to your Father who's in the secret place. I've read this scripture 1,000 times. I don't think I ever saw it like that. He says, but when you pray, go into your room, and when you shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place. If you take that theme, that idea that he's in the secret place, it's all through the scriptures. I don't think God is like intentionally running away from me, hoping I'll catch him. But there is a sense of him kind of veiling himself a little bit. Why? Because he desires a people that are willing to push in a little bit. They're willing to press in. They're willing to, the Song of Solomon talks about like, he puts his hand through the door, right? But it's, and just, she's kind of looking and kind of waiting for him. And it's like finally she has to open that door. There's something about that intentionality of going around the veil to find him. Why is that? Because he wants to see us push a little bit. In a real practical sense, and that idea is that in your prayer time, God, just because there's a little bit of resistance, doesn't mean you give up. I've done that where I've come into prayer and I'm like, man, I got too much to do and I can't think of anything, and I'll pray some other day. I want to tell you something, and I don't want to over-exaggerate something, but I really do believe this. All hell is against you learning how to pray. It really is, okay? I don't miss meals. I don't go, I'm too busy to eat. It doesn't happen, okay? I don't miss a lot of things. I can be there. I can get it done. But somehow with prayer, I can somehow skirt around it. And it's not like I'm intentionally choosing not to. Maybe the first time I'll be like, I'm too busy right now. But then I just forget. Really. And so, why is there such an attack? Why is there such a attack on your prayer life? Is because if you begin to understand what happens when you get into that place, everything else changes. They talk about, when you read preachers' books, they'll talk about this. They'll talk about, like, your preaching needs to come out of the prayer closet, right? They'll be like, a good preacher. You can tell a good preacher because they've been in the prayer closet. You can tell that versus they just got it off sermonsonline.com, right? I want to say that has to do with preachers, but that has to do with all of us. Your job requires you to do it from the prayer closet. Really. If you're in education, I don't know how you move into a room of small children without being from the prayer closet. Okay? If you're dealing with the public in any way and you're doing it without the prayer closet, you're ridiculous. If anything we do apart from the relationship and prayer, from the dependence on God, we don't do it well. I think it was Martin Luther that said this. He used to pray 2 hours every morning, and he said this. He told one of his friends, he says, I'm really busy today, so I have to pray 3 hours. Because he understood the strength of everything else he did came from the place of prayer. But I really think we've gotten used to the idea that we can do it without that place of prayer. We can even do it with just the noisy prayer and the rushed prayer. And God said this, he said this to me, he said, I think sometimes we get more fascinated with our time of prayer than with the God of prayer. That's quotable. You put that better be tweeted or Facebooked or something, okay? That's good stuff. We get more impressed with the time of prayer than the God of prayer. Is that we go, man, I've done my 20 minutes or I've spent my time, but we haven't met with him. And so what comes out is that we go out and we do our thing, but we haven't encountered the King of Kings for that day, for that moment. We haven't been in that place. And so we're going out and we don't realize the weakness we're walking in without being in that place of prayer. If we did, like if he could give us a vision of what we look like before the prayer closet versus after the prayer closet, it would shock us. I think we end up spiritually kind of walking into the world a lot of times just naked as a jaybird. But if you begin to see a vision of when you come out of that prayer closet, you come out clothed. Here's a verse I was reading the other day. It says, clothe me in your presence. When we walk out of that prayer closet, we walk out clothed in royalty. We walked out clothed in righteousness. We walked out clothed in power. Does that make sense? I don't want to do life naked. That should be a theme of Cross Life Church. Stop doing church naked, okay? I want to walk out of the prayer closet clothed in a place of power. Okay, lastly, but when you pray, go into your room, and when you shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. That's kind of, I kind of dealt with it. That idea that there's a reward to seeking. Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith it's impossible to please him, but he that comes to him must believe that he is, and he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. It's worth it, guys. I'm excited about prayer this year because I have these glimpses and these visions of 200 plus people that aren't just talking to themselves anymore, but are connecting with the kingdom of heaven every single day. I have this vision of a church that's coming out of their prayer closet in individually, coming out of their prayer closets as family, coming out of their prayer closets corporately, and absolutely rocking the world. Patty's not here tonight. She's driving back from New Mexico seeing family, and me and her argue about this because I say prayer is hard, and she's like, it's not hard. She's not here, so I'm going to tell you the truth. It's hard. There are going to be times in prayer that it's not going to be hard, but there's going to be a lot of times that it's going to be a little difficult. Toughen up, Buttercup. Push in, seek him, diligently go after him, because the reward of encountering the King of Kings is worth a little bit of struggle. Stand up on your feet. And my glasses are foggy now, so really can't see a thing. If you don't have a prayer closet, like a physical place that you spend in prayer with God each day, get that. Like, make that a priority. Like, get a chair, get something, get an area where your mind's trained to walk into that place and it's a prayer thing. And here's the other thing, and this is going to sound a little rough, but pray every day. I know we got excuses. Shut up. Like, get rid of the excuses. Give your kids some bread and water, stick them in a closet, hand them an iPad, and go pray. It's good parenting advice. Like, I know you work 15 hours a day at your job. I get it. Make time to spend time with God every single day. And I'm not talking a Jesus take the wheel prayer. I'm talking an intentional getting into your prayer closet and meeting with the King of Kings. And watch everything change. Watch your day change. Watch everything transform from a place of I'm struggling through a day to where I'm walking to this day with the Spirit of God in my ears. I'm walking into this day in a place of wisdom. I'm walking in this day clothed in his presence. Here's the secret to great prayer. Do it. I've realized that I'm going to preach on prayer probably this entire year, 99% of the time I get to preach, but it's all going to come down to just, are we going to pray? And are we going to ask God to take us deeper in prayer, to take us to places that are a little uncomfortable in prayer, to stretch us in that place? So, Lord, I just thank you tonight. I thank you that you've called Cross Life Church to prayer. I thank you that you've set it as our assignment. You've set it as our purpose. You've set it as the vehicle to bring revival. I thank you that you are challenging us. I thank you that you're taking us into places of discomfort in prayer. I thank you that you're calling us to pray ways we hadn't prayed before. I thank you that you are asking us to meet you, to encounter you. God, I just pray tonight for every person in this room that there would just be a sense of desire like there's never been before. There would be just that longing that they would have in their heart to come and meet with you, that they would hear the invitation, and that we would have a steadfast heart to be able to push in and press in and go after the things of God. So, Lord, I just bless this church tonight. I just ask that you would, scary prayer, but you would wake them up. You would wake them up in the middle of the night. You would call them to prayer in odd times. And you would, if they have a hard time finding the time to pray, you'd help them find that time to pray. God, I thank you. You've invited us into a journey of prayer. I think you've invited us into a relationship. I thank you for that tonight. We love you and we praise you. And everybody said, amen. God bless you. We will see you Sunday.